La Rochelle, Port de Minim, and pontoon number 50. And here is the Dufour 61, the flagship from the Dufour shipyard. I've been waiting for a perfect moment to review this yacht, since flagships have a tendency to attract and excite. This yacht does just that, and it's truly a dignified piece of work. It was built with a new hull technology, and it embodies a combination of classic and modern technologies. As a result, we got a great sailing yacht, with a very good interior, and today we'll take a closer look at it. Fair warning, we have added some improvements to it, which you might have already seen on our Instagram page. Today we'll be reviewing Dufour 61, the flagship of the Dufour shipyard, so let's begin. My name is Sasha Goron, and this is another video review from the Interparus team. Today we have 61 feet of beauty, grace, and luxury to explore, so let's go. As you can see, the board itself is quite high. With this yacht they used a very interesting system of connecting the deck directly with the board, without leaving any seams visible. Look at how beautiful this yacht is, it really is a piece of art. It's very long, and even on the sides, the waist is quite large, and the surface overall is quite spacious. So right away, I can tell that it is a very elegant and beautiful boat. We also covered it with natural teak, and the mast has been painted white. As I mentioned, we also have an in-mast furling mainsail, so basically the mainsail is getting rolled into a boom. You probably already know the advantages of such a system. With this system in place, you won't lose the rigidity of the sail, because it has battens, and you also won't have to compromise for a smaller sail, since it's space efficient. This system works quite well, and many boats such as Amelie, X-yachts, and even mega yachts, have it installed. So we've put it here as well, and this furling system is made by Mainfurl, a Danish company. The stem head of the boat is crowned with a bowsprit, with stainless steel inside, and a bit of a designer casing. There's also a decent anchor in place, this time around by Ultramarine, and I wholeheartedly recommend the beautiful anchors for monohull boats. Main functions aside, I think that an anchor can be a great decorative element. On top you'll find a rim for a gennaker, or for code 0, which is an asymmetric spinnaker. There is a fairly good distance between the headstay and this rim, which is only for the best, since it is a sailing yacht after all. There's also a straight stem with lots of protection, and hydraulic twisting. And take a look at this wonderful fairlead, made of stainless steel. And now we're on the deck, so here's the waist. It's pretty much an avenue, and you can walk here hand in hand. And you probably remember this device, since we mentioned it in earlier reviews. This is basically a hook, that makes it easier to tie the boat to a buoy, by returning your mooring line back to you. It's a very simple yet useful device, so I definitely recommend having it on board. Also, take a look at these shrouds, they look quite stern. These windows also look amazing, but I'll show you those in more detail on the inside. Apart from the amazing design, they're also quite functional, and not only do they look fantastic on the inside, they also let a huge amount of natural light into the cabin, which is always a good thing. All hatches are evenly installed into the floor, and there are no extra borders peeking outside the deck's level. And as I mentioned before, the entire deck is covered in teak. You'll notice that we even covered this front part of the cabin in teak as well, and it looks quite dashing and elegant. And here is the white mast, which helps with the heat resistance, and just looks absolutely beautiful overall, much better than just a chunk of unpainted aluminum. The mast goes all the way down to the keel, and the mast step is down there as well. The total air draft of this yacht is 28 meters, which is almost a 10-story building. If you like living dangerously, we can try and lift you up there in a bosun's chair. Here we installed an in-mast furling mainsail from a Danish company called Mainfurl, which I already mentioned to you before. And I already touched on the topic of why it is the best option for this boat as well. First of all, we're getting a much lighter mast, unlike the options they have on Amelie, where they have a heavy pin inside the mast, which makes the overall weight so big that it rocks the boat. And secondly, which is the most important thing, when a mainsail is rolled into a mast, it doesn't get stretched, and it keeps its rigidity much longer than your classic mainsail. Though it doesn't have any battens either. We have yet to invent vertical rolling battens, but for now all the attempts have failed. So putting the battens aside, it forms a big nice triangle, just like the one you can see here, which is about 25 to 30% smaller than the usual mainsail, especially at the top, where the wind is more stable. When it comes to this system, in spite of all the obvious sacrifices, it's still pretty cool that the mainsail doesn't lose its properties for a longer period of time. But we still have the roach here, so the overall area loss, compared to the standard sail, is about 8 to 9%. If you ever get to see the superyachts anywhere on the French Riviera or Mallorca, they all have this in-mast furling mainsail installed. It was a perfect option for this boat as well, since the customer tasked us with making it in such a way that it could be sailed by a single person. In order to achieve that, we installed all sorts of things. For example, we've got an automatic staysail, or a self-tacking jib, and we've also installed 2 thrusters here. As a result, the boat is quite maneuverable, rather light and easily controlled, especially for a yacht of this size. And of course, for the working in-mast furling mainsail you need a decent boom wang, and here we have a hydraulic one, and thanks to this system we avoided using a topping lift. Overall, you'll probably notice that we have much fewer ropes hanging around. To make the ropes as inconspicuous as possible, we hid all the leads under the deck. With these we have tiny access hatches here. All in all, the boat looks very elegant and a lot cleaner, all thanks to the fact that we have a minimum amount of rigging outside. Here's the traveler for the jib fairlead, and thanks to this little thing, it's very easy and simple to manage. And now, let's take a closer look at this wonderful foredeck. Just like the rest of the deck, it's covered in teak, and it looks just as good as we've seen before. It's also incredibly spacious, and you could easily throw a disco party here. This foredeck definitely adds to the overall gracefulness of the boat, thanks to its elongated shape, which not only makes it spacious, but also adds to its swiftness at sea. And secondly, as I mentioned before, it is quite roomy, and on this part of the deck you can easily put a few tables, have a sunbathing session, and I just hang out for a bit, doing whatever it is you like doing in your spare time. Here is the crew cabin, with a bed and a toilet. And here we have access to the winch. You could have thought it was for a chain box, but not this time around. Chain which is by Lumar, and the chain itself is 16 millimeters thick. And we've already discussed these fairleads before, which are quite reliable. Also, if you look here, you'll see that the twist is also kind of hidden. This is a remnant of Dufour's sporting past, and also an attempt to add more area to the sail wherever they can. Looks like we're done here, so let's go to the cockpit, and see if there's anything interesting down there. It's a truly spacious cockpit, despite the fact that the V-bottom contours of the boat are quite abrupt, adding to its sporty capacity. There's a very simple control system in place, and we have only 4 winches on each side, one for the main sheet, and another for furling the mainsail into a boom, using this rope. So with the help of one winch, we're furling the mainsail, and then we unfold it using the good old halyard, that is hidden right here. These winches are size 65, and all 4 of them are automatic. So thanks to this setup, one properly trained person can easily manage this yacht, and raise the sails from here, which is the ultimate goal when it comes to all the yachts. Next up, is the helm station. Here we have the bow thruster controls, a 12-inch chart plotter by Raymarine, and the model is called Axiom 12. From here you can also control the ramp, and let go of the anchor, and there's also an engine control present on this helm station. Every single control here is electric, and it's the latest, state-of-the-art equipment, which is just amazing all by itself. Then there's the steering wheel, the speaker, and the radio station. But now, let me show you how the ramp works. Here we have 2 buttons, which we need to press and hold simultaneously to turn it on, and then you can just push it out using this arrow button, so here is what it will look like. And here are the railings. The ramp is about 2 meters long. And from here, we can also adjust its angle, moving it up and down to reach optimal height. It's an incredibly useful device. Both stations are almost symmetrical, and everything on the panel looks identical too, down to the last button. And down here you'll find light control buttons. After the helm station, you'll find some soft cushions. These are very nice and comfortable seats, and we will also make an additional custom-made seat here. When it comes to this lounge, there are several options. You can either just sit on it, like this. Or you can place an additional section here, and it will become a nice little daybed for sunbathing. Alright, now let's see if there are any surprises at the opposite helm station. As mentioned, this station is almost symmetrical relative to the other one. Here we have a compass, a 12-inch chart plotter by Axiom, and engine controls. In addition, there's also Raymarine's I-70 multifunction instrument, and bow thruster controls. And down here, are the controls for the hydraulics of the boom wang, meaning that from here we can raise and lower the boom. On the port side of the yacht there are 2 winches, and there's also an automatic control of the Jeanneau. This way, there are no visible ropes around, and the twist is located directly on the forecastle, so we can control the Jeanneau from here. And once again, we have 2 electric winches, one for a Gennaker halyard, and another for a mainsail sheet. There's also one for the Jeanneau halyard, and the Jeanneau sheet. With this system in place, you can control the main sheet from both stations. In addition, there's also a platform control right here, and I've got to say, that it's an enormous one at that. Here, let me open it up for you. So now, let's actually get on that platform. I want to see if there are any interesting details hidden there. This is a great swimming platform, and obviously, it's a favorite place for women and children, but it's also a great place to relax for a man. If you open this panel right here, you'll see a Turbomax electric pump, which you have probably already seen before. It is installed on all the flagship models, such as the Dufour 56 and 61. There's also a tiny shower here. And water pipe fitting. One of the main family features of Dufour is a unique galley, that is mostly designed for grilling. To open it up, you can fold the backrest over here. And here we have an English electric grill, and a sink. So here you can make a nice barbecue, or maybe even fry some fish, while you're this close to water. The grill is fairly big, and it's electric too, but you can install a gas grill if you want. And here's also a dinghy, which can be up to 3 meters long and still be safely stored right there. In this case, we equipped this boat with an e-propulsion electric motor, so there's that. The placement of every single detail is quite on point, and this is something that Dufour is famous for. The stern is very well done, and it deserves the praise. But let's move on. Here is where you can access the garage for the dinghy, and it's a great solution, so there's no need to unfold the platform. This particular dinghy is rather small, and there is enough space to store some additional equipment. So depending on the size of your dinghy, you can use this section as a locker. And then you can just close it up. By the way, there are two very capacious lockers, one on each side of the yacht, that present a nice addition to the garage. They're also symmetrical in placement. So here's one on the starboard side. And as you see, we have already filled it to the brim. Next to it, there is also a locker for gas cylinders, and the same is happening on the port side. In total, there are two lockers for gas cylinders, and it's a very important detail that adds to this boat's storage capacity. And here is a spacious locker for all sorts of things that you'll need along the way. You'll see that the situation is pretty much the same on the port side too. There's a nice practical locker to store your stuff in, and then there's a smaller locker, which can house a gas cylinder of about 10 to 12 kilograms. But let's move on, and see what else is there. This seems to be a relaxing zone in the cockpit, and there are quite a few sofas here. They look truly enormous, and you can easily lay down here for an outdoor nap, since they look quite comfy. And take a look at this wonderful table, it's pretty big as it is. Thanks to its design, you can also install a small refrigerator for drinks here, and on top of it there are stainless steel cup holders, and a small locker for storage. There are a few things to be added, for example a table lamp, which will be installed right here. And then there are some shelves on the side of it. When unfolded, the table is quite large, or I would say even huge, and it's also made of some proper teak wood. Maybe later the skipper will also cover it with oil at the request of the future owner, but the size of it is truly impressive. And if you lift this pillow, you'll see that underneath it, Dufour has hidden an emergency entrance or exit from the cabins. You can also use it as an additional hatch, to ventilate the cabins while you sleep, and the only thing you need to do is remove this pillow. Take a look at this cockpit enclosure too, it's pretty innovative, and it consists of two parts, that are connected with each other thanks to this thick arch. When it comes to the front part of the enclosure, you can remove it section by section, and leave it open, creating some sort of hood for the cockpit. You'll probably notice this white fog on the windows here, but it's just a transportation film that we haven't removed yet. And I really like this teak-covered space here. I think that you can easily add some pillows to it, to make it cozy enough to maybe even live here, or just carry out some kind of vital activity. Apart from disassembling the enclosure, you can also unzip some parts here. You can make it into a winter enclosure too, which will cover your cockpit completely, and in general you can adjust it for any season and weather conditions, such as rain, storms, etc. Apart from that, two of these bimini enclosures can be connected into one, by adding one more piece between them. But this part is usually kept open for a reason, for example to keep an eye on the sails. So that's it my friends, now let's go down inside, and see the boat's interior, since I bet that there is lots of interesting stuff on the inside too. The entrance panel opens with a slight movement of the hand, which is pretty nice. I think that this is a very convenient solution, although closing it is not as easy as opening it, but I want to see what else is there. Let's get into it. Here's the Salon of Dufour's flagship, the 61st model, and right away you'll notice how big it is. It is quite spacious, and at the same time they used the space quite wisely. It truly is a yacht designed for long-distance travel, and everything here has been made to serve that purpose. There are stainless steel handrails on the ceiling, and next to the stairs, with nice leather padding too, which allows a very good and tight grab with your hand. Everything here looks pretty solid to me. Take a good look at these steps too, they really are quite wide, and it's a comfortable passage into the cabin. Under these stairs is where the engine is hidden, and you can try to guess which engine this is. Let's take a peek. As usual, here we have a Yanmar engine with 170 horsepower, which allows this boat to be very easily maneuvered. It can also accelerate quite swiftly when needed. It's a straight shaft engine that delivers power to a folding 4-blade propeller. And the propeller is from Max Prop, which is a very reliable and worthy brand in my opinion. On the port side, right at the entrance you'll see a dining area with a top-notch design table. Just look at it, it looks good even when it's folded. I rarely find myself in need of having a huge table, but sometimes it may be necessary, so overall it's a great feature to have. But in this state, it's a great table for having some breakfast. Another cool thing about this table is that you can unfold it partially, section by section. It's quite easy to do, and you can turn it into the biggest table you've ever seen. Give me a moment, and I'll show you this table in its full size. And as you can see, it's really huge, and will fit a lot of stuff on it. You can also move it around, to get the shape you need, and I think that the seats can easily fit up to 8 people here. Here is the drink holder, and you can easily remove it to have more space on the table. Or you can move it upstairs, whatever suits you best. This table is simply beautiful, and I really like it. Besides the perks we've already seen, it can also be moved up and down, using these 2 buttons. So this way, you can make it into a coffee table too, or adjust the height according to your needs. This is the good stuff. This table deserves an A+ from me. Let's see what else is there. I find this wall to be very cozy, and overall beautifully decorated. It has some wooden blinds, and the use of fabric on these seats gives off a sense of comfort. There are also lamps with several mode options, and here you can really experiment, and set up the correct lighting for your current mood or occasion. It is very well executed. Here's the air conditioning control panel, for the multi-zone air conditioning system that is in place on this yacht, and here is the air conditioner hatch. Let's take a look at the woodwork. Everything here is made of bleached oak, and they used natural veneer. The cabinets are pretty good, and they have gas shock absorbers installed. So you'll have plenty of space to store your things on board this yacht. Let me know what you think about it down in the comments, but I really like this setup, and this blinds up here too. All of this combined really gives me a feeling of lightness and comfort. And keep in mind, we currently don't have any proper sunlight in La Rochelle, but this interior makes it work anyway, which really is one of the main signature moves of the Dufour. But making tons of windows in the hull is not a problem, the trick is to make sure that the hull remains rigid. And Dufour brilliantly solves this issue. During the test drive, the boat showed itself to be perfectly capable of maintaining its integrity. Nothing creaks at you while you're on the move, and it moves quite swiftly through the body of water, so it's a tough cookie of a sailboat, and this amazing hull allows for tons of windows and hatches, and as a result the interior turns out to be very bright. Now, I want you to pay some attention to this tiny sofa, which can also be used for taking a great nap. All you need to do is move it to the opposite side, and it will perfectly fill in the gap that the other sofa has, creating some sort of bed. So you can easily get some rest here, or make it an additional sleeping place for a guest. And if you look under it, you'll find a tiny wine refrigerator, which is also another signature element for Dufour Yachts. Apologies, I meant to say wine cellar, my bad. I think it can fit about 30 bottles in here. And the neighboring hatch allows you access to the water maker. And then you can just close it all up. But this is not the only wine cellar on board, since this is a French boat after all, so here's a wine box, hidden under another part of the sofa. This is a complimentary gift from Interparus, which is a nice tradition. We ought to add 3 more bottles to this row to complete this view. The box also has some shock absorbers, which is always nice to see. Everything looks pretty durable and reliable. Moving on to the starboard side, here you'll see a recreation area, which is where the crew and the guests hang out more often. And I like the fact that it can be made into a bed. It's definitely a smart and useful solution, since many people love to lay down for some rest. And overall, it's nice to have an extra bed when you're sailing or staying in a marina. And here is a chart table, which is still being integrated into newer models, and it's pretty good. It is very soft to the touch, and nothing will rattle while you're on the move. Yet at the same time it's sturdy enough for you to write on it, instead of constantly looking for a suitable surface. It has 3 sections covered in leather, and if you open any of them, you'll see a storage niche to put your keys, cards, and documents in. These 2 have shock absorbers installed, which is a nice touch to the overall great solution. There are a few control panels installed here too, for example this one is for power management. There's also a Fusion stereo, and a Fisher Panda control panel, which is what you control the diesel generator with. This panel on top we installed ourselves, since the shipyard's version only had 2 installed, and the third one became an additional feature. Then there are 2 sockets, a classic EU socket and a USB socket, with a nice little lamp on top. And you'll find the Raymarine phone on the side of the table. Which is also a nice solution in my opinion, since this placement allows you to get to the phone from any point of the cabin, and answer it quickly. And as for the window and blinds, they're almost identical to the one on the left, and they're just as beautiful as the ones we've seen before. I think that even the most hardcore sailors will love this setup. As you can see, there are lots of cabinets all around the room. And of course, there's also some additional storage space under each seat, so you won't have any problems finding some space to keep your stuff. Let's take a look at the next part of the cabin. Here's a big mirror mounted to the wall, and I think that the yachtswomen will especially appreciate this feature. Then there are the Bose speakers, and they even have some keys hanging under them. The Bose speakers nicely complement the audio system, and improve the overall sound quality pretty well. Apart from this cabin, there are 2 identical speakers in the cockpit as well. I think we're done with this part of the yacht, so let's move on to the galley, and see what we have there. Do you know what's an important part of a good galley? Apparently it's a TV, so here's a TV screen that's built into this bar counter. This is a pretty sound solution, since in this setup it doesn't take up space, so if you want to watch a movie, this is how you do it. And here it is. As you can see, it even had a lid. It's a nice placement for a TV, and it's a good-sized plasma too, so it's perfect for a yacht. As for the rest of the galley, there are 2 large sinks installed, and each has a nice lid as well. Then there's a faucet, which also looks sturdy and reliable enough. And this tiny faucet actually supplies the seawater, just in case. Under this lid you'll find a tiny garbage bin. It's probably used for cooking purposes only, since there's also a standard-sized waste bin, located right under the sink. This smaller one is perfect for some sort of organic waste, and if you are out in the sea, you can recycle it by throwing it overboard. This part of the countertop is actually a lid too, and you can open it like this. I think it's a great solution, since even in this state, the lid provides some additional protection to the wall and the rest of the countertop. Under this lid, you'll find a 3-burner stove and an oven, probably made of stainless steel, so there are no surprises here. This is a decent-sized stove for a monohull yacht. Apart from all that, there's also a refrigerator here, installed into the table the same as the rest of the galley equipment, and here you can store the items you want fast and easy access to, since it's a very tiny one at that. As for the main refrigerator, here it is, and it's the size that we're all used to. It's equipped with a nice freezer, and from the looks of it, it's a pretty good model. But it is a marine cooler after all, so there are some additional features to it. First of all, it is mounted into the rest of the galley furniture with these screws, so that it doesn't fall out like it does on some other yachts. And it also comes with these latches, to keep the doors in place while your boat is pitching. Another interesting fact about it, is that it can function on 2 different voltages, the standard 220 volts while docked, and 12 volts while you're out in the sea. So basically, a 12-volt network is more than enough for this model. Here we have a 45 cm Siemens dishwasher. It says that it's made in Germany, at least I hope that this one is. The dishwasher's width is 45 centimeters, but it's capacious enough to suit all your needs. Pull-out drawers are located here, and everything is very neat on the inside. These drawers also have shock absorbers installed, and overall they're pretty well made. This is an excellent galley. It is made in such a way that you can easily cook here, both while you're sailing and while you're docked in a marina. I also dig this protection glass over here. It protects the rest of the room and the TV from water drops, and other liquids leaving the cooking area. But also at the same time, it doesn't limit your view, which is pretty nice. Every single inch of the galley area is used wisely. For example, here is a shelf where you can store your spices, as well as lots of cabinets all around me, so not a single centimeter of the Dufour's galley goes to waste. Everything here is made of an artificial stone called corian. It's totally heat resistant, and is able to withstand all sorts of mechanical shocks, meaning that it's made for active use. It goes all around the cooking area, and I think that this is a great and reliable solution for a galley. Here's the countertop rim, to keep all your cups and whatnot from falling off the table on accident. In conclusion, I think that this is a wonderful galley, and it clearly deserves an A+ from me. By the way, only a step here separates it from the other part of the yacht. And in the doorway, you'll see a part of the mast that goes all the way down to the keel. We ordered this mast in white and it was the right decision, since it fits in perfectly with the rest of the interior, especially with the white furniture in the galley. We didn't plan on it at all, but it became a nice surprise once we installed it all and realized our luck. But there are still some things to finish. Right now we're in the process of fixing up the wiring for the cameras. In the end, there are going to be 2 cameras on board for a better docking process. So in case you notice anything, sorry about the mess. But one of the most important parts of this yacht is right above us, and we definitely need to talk about it, since lighting plays a very important role in all Dufour yachts. Thanks to the great rigidity of the hull, the shipyard can make all these beautiful windows. So let's take a closer look at those. These hatches also have these curtains, which you can move back and forth, and just look at how much light gets into the room when they're open. And mind you, this is not the bright Mediterranean sun, yet the salon is simply filled with light. It also makes the room visually bigger thanks to this bleached veneer. So in the end, we get a really beautiful room, filled with warm sunlight. In addition, there are also a few ventilation hatches here. Thanks to these, you can ventilate the room pretty well. In total, there are 5 ventilation hatches for the cabin, and they are quite large too. Apart from their functionality, these windows and hatches are quite pleasing to the eye. Once you enter, this is probably the first thing you'll notice, and it's an absolutely beautiful piece of the interior. As you can see, there are loads of different hatches all around the room, and plenty of sunlight too. On the starboard side, we have a cabin with a Pullman bed. This cabin is large enough to accommodate 2 people, 2 children, or even a skipper. There is also a locker on the left side of the entrance. This yacht can be made in several layouts. This particular yacht has 4 cabins in total, and each is designed to accommodate 2 people. So there's a master cabin, 2 almost identical stern cabins, and 1 Pullman bed cabin. I think that this one had a great layout. I can only guess, but I also think that the majority of the Dufour 61 yachts will be produced with this exact layout. And now we're getting closer to the master cabin, so let's check it out. The master cabin is located right after the mast, and look at how big and bright it is. There's plenty of light, even though it's not the brightest day ever outside right now. There are no light fixtures turned on, except for these tiny bed lights. Yet there's still lots of natural lighting going around. It feels like this room is almost completely square, like a typical flat. And again, it is incredibly bright. There's a full-fledged classic bed placed in the cabin, with a tiny passage to the other end of it. There's also a very large wardrobe, which is incredibly huge compared to everything else, and they even managed to fit a tiny sofa here. I think that you could also fit a small dressing table here. Similar to what we've seen before, they used a lot of fabrics in the interior, and I think that is a great solution. In many cases, the owners will order rugs and other interior elements anyway, making it a lot more homey. There is also large storage space under the bed, and cabinets all around the room. Take a look at this wonderful soft headboard. It looks pretty cool, and there's a shelf on top too. Here are the same wooden blinds we've seen before. But if you want to make the room 100% dark, there are also these special shutters installed, that cover all your windows completely. The same goes for this hatch on top, and it even has a mosquito net. And you can also shutter this hatch, and the same can be done with all the other hatches on board. So you have many options available, and everything here is made to suit your needs. There's a large wall opposite the bed, and you can easily mount a TV on it, maybe some shelves, or even a painting by Ivazovsky. This is a Ukrainian artist, by the way. And in the front part of the cabin we have a bathroom, so let's check it out. Just look at how bright it is. And there's not a single artificial light on here, it's all natural lighting only. Let's see, so there is a separate toilet and a separate shower installed here. This sink is very well implemented, and the beige Korean stone is covering most of its surface, along with the walls. Both from a design and convenience point of view, its interior is very well thought out and executed. Maybe I would have added some cork flooring here, but you can also throw a rug on it. Whatever the changes will be, it's all up to the future owner of this beauty. To sum it all up, the owner of the boat will be fully accommodated in this cabin, since it has everything you might ever need, and the natural lighting will also add to the overall vibe. I'll repeat myself once again, but light is one of the most distinguishing features of Dufour boats, and despite numerous hatches, the hull remains strong and sturdy. This particular hull is made using this new technology, and reinforced with a structural grid. It also has an infused deck, which has a great thickness below the waterline. All of this makes the hull quite rigid, and light at the same time. Not to mention that the interior gets incredible natural lighting here, so I think this yacht is a great success, and it is really a very promising model of this size. And it's utterly perfect for long-term sailing. If you don't really need or want to sail all that much, then you can get a simpler model, where the stern is a bit bigger, and which has some other characteristics that will suit you better. But this particular boat is designed for long and safe cruising, and for having a lot of fun while doing it. I think we're done with the front part of the yacht, so let's go and see the aft cabins. And here are the aft cabins. This cabin is located on the left side of the yacht, so let's go inside and see if it's spacious enough. Keep in mind that this is a monohull boat, yet it still has a pretty big cabin. I'm able to stand here without any restrictions and at full height, since there is enough room. My height is about 1.8 meters, and yet there is still space above my head. And secondly, there is a sufficient amount of storage space. You'll find cabinets on your left and on your right, and there is a whole row of drawers right under the window. This side had a couple of shelves, which look quite pretty and minimalistic. You can store anything you want here, and I would also put a backlight there. Here's the bathroom, and it is also quite spacious. You can enter the bathroom from the hall, and from the cabin as well, since each aft bathroom has 2 entrances to it. The faucet is covered with Korean, which is a great solution, and on the floor they installed the wooden shower mats, with the drain holes. By the way, let's see what's behind the mirror here. It's also a cabinet. Every bit of space is used, and even the smallest areas are equipped with something useful. Take a closer look here as well. The bed is also surrounded by a fabric-covered rim, and fabric is pretty much everywhere on this yacht, which is what makes it cozy. As you can see, this one bed can easily turn into 2, with a slight movement of the hand. And this middle part is also easily foldable, which is also quite nice, since you'll have no trouble storing it if you need to. As for the other cabin, it has a classic king-sized bed for 2 people. So this one was actually ordered on purpose. The cabins on the starboard side are symmetrical, but there's only one bed, and it also has a little surprise in store for you, so let's see it. Now let's take a look at the aft cabin on the starboard side. While we're making our way there, I want to show you something interesting here. On both sides of the staircase, there are these tiny hatches, and each has blinds as well. I think it could also use some sort of rim, so that you could put things there, like maybe some decorative elements and such. And one more thing, we also have full access to the engine from both sides. So if you look here, you'll see that there is a hatch, and the same is happening on the other side. So you can service the engine from any side you want, with such easy access made possible. There's also a similar hatch inside the cabin. And here is the fire extinguishing alarm. So in the event of unforeseen fire-related or other emergencies, you can pull this lever, and the system will be automatically activated. Similar to what we've seen before on the port side, there are two symmetrical bathrooms here. They are quite spacious for a monohull boat, and there is a separate shower, which you can close by using this door. And then you can just fold it back, like this. This is a great solution to minimize the amount of splashing, so nice job on this one. All toilets on this yacht work on fresh water, which minimizes the smell, which is also important. It's also a decent-sized model, all made of ceramic instead of plastic, which is getting more popular day by day. And once again, there is quite enough space and light here. And finally, here's the aft cabin on the starboard side of the yacht. And it is a little smaller than the one we've seen before. Here's a single bed, and unfortunately there's no way to make it into two beds, so this is its final form. The rest looks pretty much the same, these shelves, cupboards, and I would also put a backlight here. As you can see, there are lots of cabinets all around. And here's the entrance to the bathroom. If you lift your head, you'll see multiple hatches for ventilation here. Also, there are two more portholes on the sides, which also have blinds installed. You can use those to get the blackout effect. And here is a hatch for an emergency exit, which we've seen from the other side, but it can also be used for ventilation. So if there's no one sitting in the cockpit, you can easily open it, and it will provide an additional source of fresh air and sunlight, which is always a good thing. There's something else I want to draw your attention to. Down here is where they placed a water maker control panel. This water maker operates from two types of power supplies, 12 volts and 220 volts, so you can operate on 12 volts while you're sailing, and the only difference will be in the volume of water produced. There are also two other features here, that are quite unique. First of all, you see that the mattress has some sort of sector design. You'll probably wonder what it's for, but I promise there's a login behind this solution. To see it, you'll need to lift this mattress up. And here it is. With a slight movement of your hand, you'll have easy access to this spacious locker. It probably makes more sense to use it for bedclothes, but in this case, we are currently preparing this yacht for transport. And here's the surprise that I promised, we installed a washing machine in this aft cabin. This is a Korean wall-mounted washing machine with a built-in dryer. First of all, it is relatively quiet compared to a classic washer, and second of all, it fits in just perfectly. The vibration is minimal, and up to 3 kilograms of laundry can be washed and dried. So it's 2 for 1 with maximum efficiency. I think we're done with this cabin, so let's move on. My dear friend, I think that now it's finally time for a test drive, or a sea trial, so let's sail this beauty. But to be honest, I have already sailed on this yacht, and I really liked it, since it genuinely got me hooked. It actually brought up in me a feeling of excitement, and I hope that now I will be able to share it with you. Even though the forecast says that the wind is pretty slow, but we've got to try. Either way, a good yacht should sail well even in these circumstances. The ability to sail is another indicator of the boat's quality. With a strong wind, you can sail even on a wood log, as long as you have a piece of fabric to make a mainsail of. To infinity and beyond. Well friends, as you can see we just raised our mainsail. And we literally did it within 20 seconds, or maybe even 30 at best. It only took 1.5 people to do that too. And in general, if the autopilot was set to the wind, and you placed the boat against the wind, one person could handle it as well. So here it is, a Dufour yacht, 61 feet in length, with nearly 30 meters of mast height. How do you like it so far? The wind is definitely getting stronger. We are going close-hauled. And as you can see, I'm out on deck right now. Just look at how huge this yacht is. There aren't enough hands on board, so I'm currently filming myself. And you'll notice that the boat moves really well, and you'll really enjoy it once you experience it. There is a fight going on at the helm, since everyone wants a chance to steer it and get the feel of it. It's an incredibly big and beautiful moho boat, and it's a sexy yacht as well, which only adds to its overall attractiveness. And when a yacht also has such a drive to it, it makes it a proper dream boat. I also like the contours of this yacht, and I really admire her. Before this yacht, I had the fastest record for raising sails on an UML boat. But now, in this configuration, the Dufour 61 has become the record holder, since setting up the sails takes only seconds. And you can do it alone. Let me show you something. Now we'll learn how to make turns on a boat of this size, using an automatic staysail. So here it goes. Just get your champagne, and turn the steering wheel to the right. And then sails change the direction automatically. So you can easily make a turn from the helm station, with a slight movement of the steering wheel, and that's it. Just make sure to hold a glass of champagne in your hand. I'm guessing that many experienced yachtsmen will say that this is not proper yachting. Or that it doesn't have to be that easy. But keep in mind, this is what our customers requested, and with this task at hand, we delivered exactly what was expected of us. In the end, this yacht was initially designed for super easy sailing, so it's only logical that it is really easy to manage. With this boat, you'll enjoy every second of cruising. Of course, you can put up a full-fledged Jeanneau here and install better sails, made out of much more professional fabric. And in the end you may even be able to race on this boat, because it really sails quite well, and the steering wheel is very responsive. I can certainly feel that when I'm behind the wheel. But all in all, this is a great model that belongs out in the sea. This boat may even have multiple purposes, and you can take it on a cruise, or you can spend your days sailing around the marina. Apart from all that, you can even rent it to some VIP charter service, to get some additional income off of it. That is why I have always liked Dufour flagships. They are really great yachts, for the pure enjoyment in every sense of the word. To sum it all up, I want to note that this was the most beautiful and elegant boat we ever had the opportunity to take out for a test drive. Dufour's flagship boats have always attracted my attention, since they are really beautiful, strong, and reliable. Not to mention that they are very fast and maneuverable as well. The models such as the 63rd, 61st, and 56th, they all look and feel incredibly cool both on the outside and on the inside. The 61st model is no exception, and I always looked at it with much anticipation, when it was docked at the old port. I think that you probably liked it as much as I did. If you'd like to purchase this boat, please contact the Interparus team. We will be happy to take you to the shipyard and show it to you. And if you need training to be able to sail this yacht, or any other type of boat, be sure to get in touch with me, and I will be honored to help you open the doors to the wonderful world of yachting. Greetings from Sasha Goron and the entire Interparus team.